All right, we're live. I
Like,
bet
all
you have
right,
a.
I'm.
I bet you
Oh,
have
you
a
are
sense of.
okay.
I bet you have a sense of security now to know. Like, I wish a mother effer would come to my house. Puts
I'm
this
gonna
thing to
tell you
work.
the part that I'm super excited about is learning how to use it. That's the part that I'm like, wow, this is a totally different ball game. Like this is a new hobby. This is a new skill. I'm gonna meet different people. Like it's just a different lane to be taken right now. It's just something
Yeah.
new to try. You know.
And it's a very masculine thing. So, there's probably not that many betas that you're going to meet with that kind of interest.
Right, and you'll weed out all the weak guys. If the second they're turned off by you having a gun, you're like, beta, get on.
See ya.
So now that we're back up, Victoria,
What?
let's go back to that question that you were talking to Grace about beauty privilege, and what you ladies realized that how prettier you are as a girl, you get. What was your insight? That they get away with things.
They have more access.
Yeah, we were just talking about how, really pretty girls, and really pretty by society standards, because, we all have a certain taste, but what is aesthetically pleasing across the board, those women, they do tend to get more. They get away with more, they receive more, men want to give to them more, and it's very apparent, and I can actually speak to that today, because without mentioning names, I don't want to say names, but one of the Bond girls got on camera with the morning show today. And as soon as she got on, I thought, you know what? The chat is going to light up. They're either going to say she's pretty or they're going to say she's ugly. They're not going to listen to anything that poor girl has to say. And not poor girl, but you know what I'm saying. Like, they're not going to listen. They're just going to look at her aesthetically, and they're going to make a judgment about her worth right on the spot. And sure enough, that's what happened. It's like, oh, she's cute.
This is on JLP.
And it's like,
on JLP.
okay.
JLP's radio show.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Yeah, this morning. It was Chris.
Chris.
Or Christina.
Oh,
I call her Chris.
Bullring.
Yeah. Oh my God.
No,
yeah,
it's true, and
tiny now,
guys,
she gets a pass. It's cute.
you think that the more attractive a girl is, the harder she is to get, but I mean, I don't think that's necessarily true, because if you can overcome yourself and the weakness of being controlled by that, it changes the whole game, because like in my experience, like when there's a really pretty girl, like I don't cater to her, and I'm gonna more so be more likely to ignore her, because I know she probably gets attention all the time, and there's no you're not anything special coming up to her and giving her compliments or giving her attention because she's the prettiest one in the room.
Right.
Everybody does that. So that would be my angle in my life, in my past or whatever, to try to get the attention of a pretty girl, is to just not try to get her attention at all and pay attention to everyone else.
Yeah, there's a pretty
Now,
girl. Pretty
no,
girl.
now I'm going to have to check you on that, because you know that's a tactic that's going to make her want you more.
No, that's my
That's
point.
exactly
That's my
That's
point.
how you bag them.
They think that that's
Okay,
usually
now
that's
is
how you
that
get
not
them.
sorcery? Let's be real, bros.
It's not sorcery.
It's just knowing how she operates, because
It's
her ego.
exactly.
It's manipulation.
It's awareness, though.
No, it's because by not doing anything, you're not manipulating, but you know that because you don't act and you don't give in to her ego will drive her to chase you, because she wants validation.
If I follow her beauty and I give her a bunch of attention, that's sorcery and manipulation on me. So if I'm aware of that sorcery and manipulation, I'm gonna actually be like, wait a second, So either way, you could look at it however, but I'm just saying, as advice, if you want to get the pretty girl, don't try to get her.
So Victoria, now that you kind of are like, the more you grow into your identity and your things are falling away, other things are picking up.
Yeah.
How do you deal with battling this idea of women keeping lists and still trying to play God when they know the truth? Because again, like I said, for you Bond girls, you're probably even more dangerous to men because you know the truth. But and that's a problem. You know it, but it doesn't mean you're living it. And so you're a threat, because you can say all the nice things that the guy wants to hear, like, I want you to lead me. I want a strong man. I want to submit. I just can't wait to submit. And you don't mean it.
I was talking with one of the girls about that today as well. To be honest with you, you don't really have to say that. I think that women talk too much on the whole, because if we're dating, I'm going to demonstrate to you that I want to be led, or
That's
you know
good.
what I'm saying? Like I think saying it sets you up to be disappointed.
Yeah,
because
if you're
only
saying it like that,
because you have an expectation.
if you're saying it, then you
Yeah.
become the boss maker, as opposed to just him being the boss.
Yeah, because why would you set up an expectation like that? That's the kind of thing that just comes up in casual conversation, like, oh, you know, when I get married, or if I ever get married, like, or actually, you don't even talk like that. You don't even say, if I get married, ... You just say something as simple as, dude, I think homeschooling is the only way to go.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's just a general statement. That's how women need to start talking, instead of saying, I want X, Y, Z, I want this, I want that.
It's that
like,
ego.
no,
If it
just
starts with
speak
the
in
words I
generalities.
want.
It's fine.
Yeah, it always starts with everything they talk about is, like you said, it's that ego. I want this. I want lots of money. I want him to be so rich that I can buy whatever I want.
It's
and I want
willfulness. Willfulness. Let God's will be done. No, don't force everything and try to impose onto the world.
Would you agree with what I had told Grace, that most likely the better man for you is going to be the guy who probably makes you feel uncomfortable because he checks you more often than he sweet talks you? And your ego is going to say, oh no, this is not the one because he's missing so many parts of my list, and he doesn't give in to me, doesn't give me what I want. So it's like a way for a woman to say, yep, not him, let me go on to the next guy that I think is attractive, and even if he's missing a few things and doesn't check me, well, at least he's cute.
That's an interesting one, because I am a little double-minded on that, because I do think that, oh God, it just sucks, because right now, as it stands, when a girl is extremely attractive, like let's just say it's a girl that really has put a lot of effort into how she looks, she's not only doing that for herself, she's doing that because on the whole, she wants everybody that looks at her to also feel that she's attractive.
Yep.
It's gonna attract a certain kind of man that is driven by looks. So he's not going to put her in her place and do those kinds of things.
Exactly.
The guy that is going to put her in her place is probably going to be more of an earthy type. He's going to be a guy that's maybe not as fancy. That's not what she wants, because she's not doing it for that guy. She's not looking good to get a partner.
That's what I'm saying.
She's looking good to get a city boy.
But they keep chasing that, the way they act and dress, even if they know the way, they still think the guy has to look like what they're used to getting, that fancy looking shiny fish, when that's not the one that's going to check them, and that's not the one that's going to have the backbone to do what needs to be done. You know, they may look like it. He may do 1,000 sit-ups a day, but he's still got a feminine spirit. Even if he has one drop of it, there's a woman spirit in that man.
Yes, and again, it's like I said, it's tricky, because maybe there is a girl out there that's like that. Maybe there is a girl that's like crazy beautiful and she's willing to go get in the dirt with you. But I don't think you're going to find that in a nose job and boob jobs and Botox. It's not going to happen.
That's you, baby. That's you.
That lifestyle doesn't go with that. You know what I mean? Like it's not. That's not made for that lifestyle. Those things are made for people that want to be seen, and they're better paired with people that want to be seen. You know what I mean? Like, that person probably does exist, but finding it in LA or having it present itself in Los Angeles is like a needle in a haystack. You know, it is going to be, could be a long journey by yourself to see something like that. But I think with those women, it does take a man that's going to just kind of, what do they say, chop you down to size or whatever.
Yep.
But most women are going to need that to happen time and time and time again. And they're probably going to be 40 by the time it hits them, that they should have chosen that guy that was hard on them, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to all of that. I really don't, you guys. It's just...
Like what you said about... they think that they're going to find the one that is just as shiny and kind of outwardly has that ego as them, that, oh, maybe they'll get that diamond in the rough that will care about all this material stuff, but somehow be an alpha. But I don't think it's that way. It doesn't mean that an alpha is just a dirty mountain man. but what they're holding on to is still that worldly idea that he's going to be some GQ guy, but still have some kind of
Yes.
have the alpha spirit and led by God. When I don't think it works that way. He'll take care of himself. Any man of God will be clean and hygienic, but he's not going to be a little bitch. You know, like it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's the thing. I'll be honest, like I haven't really had that discussion yet in the group because I do know just with I'm not gonna say just with these women, you know, in our group, but just women in general, they're not ready to have that conversation. You know what I mean? Like they're really not, and
Yeah, they don't wanna see the right way. They like being in that.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of people in the world, a relationship is based on how they make each other feel.
Right.
You know, like the more attractive of a partner you find, the better you feel about yourself. You feel better in your ego because you're like, I bagged a hot one.
I got me one.
Or you know, they make me feel good because I'm sexually aroused and I feel aroused.
Yeah.
You know, or he gives me all these compliments and makes me feel good. It's all comes down to that. If you know, it's as hard as it is. The right thing to do is to find somebody that's going to be the one that's going to be perfect to create a family, right? And have the same values for the children and all that kind of stuff.
He's not going to make you feel that. He shouldn't be making you feel
exactly.
that.
It's not about. A lot of people these days want to get, they'll get married, but they won't want to have kids, right? What's the point of getting married if you're not having kids? The point because they want to just have somebody that makes them feel good.
Well, I was asking a guy that I used to date that I was talking with this week, and to be honest, this was like the only person in my life I really felt like, okay, I could probably marry this guy. Like if he asked me, I would consider like strongly. And but the way I am, I ask questions, and I know with this person I can just ask whatever, like because he's just whatever. And I asked him, like, could you ever have a relationship without sex before you married the person? And the short answer is no. And I knew that because we had that conversation years ago when I first was dating him. And when I went into asking more questions, like, why is that? Like, what is it about the sex that is going to confirm for you that this person is the right one for you? Because sex is very mechanical. I said, you're putting it on a pedestal when it's something that you can do with your hand.
That's right.
So what's going on here? Like what is it really? Like let's talk about it. And he was very open. And long story short, he said that he would probably consider it, but the caveat is that the person has to make him feel special in other ways.
You got all these big little words.
And I thought, okay, this is your ego. This is ego. Got it. Like, it didn't make sense. I'm like, if I don't have sex, I have to make you feel special? Like, is that my job, though? Like, am I supposed to do that?
No, it's not your job.
I'm asking you guys. Like, I didn't understand his answer when he said that. Because he didn't say it for me specifically, but he just said if the sex wasn't there, he would have to feel special and wanted and needed in other ways.
Yeah, no, that's a woman. You're talking to a woman at that point. When guys say that stuff, that's ridiculous. Like a man.
Yeah.
The way it is now is, if I was to get married and she was to have a flip out, which women are prone to do, have their highs and lows. It's like Jesse says, and I completely agree. If she wants to walk out, well then walk out. Have a great walk. If I never see you again, I wish you well. It doesn't matter because she's not going to pull me into that hell. My job is to stay where I'm at. I'm the rock. I'm the anchor. The man is that, and he doesn't let the woman, no matter what she's doing, no matter how big the hissy fit, pull him into hell. She wants to walk off, go ahead, but the kids stay with me because you got to maintain order. And that's the only way that she'll have peace. And it may take a minute for that spirit to die. She'll like convulse, and you have to bring the preacher in and throw some holy water on her.
Unless the guy's like just an abusive, angry guy that's like totally wrong. Yeah, you don't want to be like manipulated into a bad, unhealthy relationship.
Yeah, and I'll be real. Like this guy did have a lot of beta qualities to him, from what I recall.
Isn't that funny? Beta qualities. Because quality is like good. No, I just thought that those words were like oxymoron. Beta qualities. Aren't qualities a positive
Oh.
thing?
Beta traits. We'll call them traits. So he had beta traits, and the one thing that he did though that really did stop me in my tracks, if I'm being honest, this was before I knew about believing in God and all this other stuff. The one thing that he would do was when I went too far, he would walk away and he'd say, you know what? You know how I feel about you and the way you're acting right now. I'm good. Call me when you're ready. I'm out. And I was like, excuse me? You can't do that to me. And I remember just sitting sometimes like, I can't believe he did that to me. Like, because in my head, I made him out to be this complete bitch. I hate to say that, but, like, I made him out to be a bitch. But then it was like when he had enough, like, he was like, no, now you've gone too far. Like, you seriously need to sit down, and when you're done with your tantrum, I'll be back,
That reminds me of I had a girlfriend at one point a while ago that towards the end of it, she would, like, if we ever got into some argument or something, and it's like, I didn't initiate in these arguments either. They came out of thin air. But eventually she would just, like, leave. If we were out somewhere, she'd, like, call an Uber and leave. And I'd be like, all right, bye. Like she was trying to test me to chase her and go get her and be like, no, wait, come back. And it happened, like, a few times. Yes. And I was like, all right, see ya.
Yeah.
And then one of the times too, she like left. I
love that about him, though.
She left, and then she like rode one of those bird scooters home, and she ended up crashing it and like hurt herself, and then sent me pictures and like, oh, I fell down and hurt myself, and I was like, well, you shouldn't have left. You shouldn't have rode on that bird alone by yourself wearing that skirt. It was like, it was all to bait me to, I'm like, I was almost thinking, like, did you crash on purpose so that I would feel sorry for you because I didn't chase after you? Because it was like 3 times it would happen, and I was just like, man, this is so crazy.
Oh, yeah. Women love doing that. Just up and down, like, they're like, get out! Well, come back! Get out! Come back!
Yeah, totally. And the man that gets out the first time and says, you know what? This is bullcrap. I don't have to deal with this, like stay in hell by yourself. Like, obviously he doesn't say it in those words, but just with his actions, if he doesn't pick up the phone after that incident, if he doesn't text you, if he really gives you that space, I'm going to tell you, like, even when I was in the fallen state, that affected me. And I thought it gave me time to back up and really look at what I did and really observe. And I know that those were the steps that got me to where I'm at right this second. You know what I'm saying? Like, when a person's willing to just say, you know what, you're doing too much, and tell you the truth, there's nothing like it. You know what I mean? And just in that, I know that every man has that in him, whether he's in the fallen state or not, because this guy was absolutely fallen. We were both in hell together. But for him to know enough was enough, there's an alpha in there somewhere.
You saying that reminds me of, like,
I will give him that every day.
Most girls I notice in my experience is when you do correct them and you do that stuff, and they do decide to take it, they're gonna follow it up with, well, now that we're talking about issues we have, and she's gonna want to, like, say all this stuff about you.
Yeah,
and it's gonna be like a a scorekeeping thing where it's like, I notice whether it's my sister, my mom, a girl I dated, that they can't take criticism very well without having to one-up you.
Right, and like you just nailed it on the head with sometimes the right thing for a man to do is to just leave her alone. You don't call her back, you don't talk to her. It's not that you hate her, it's not that you resent her, it's not that you have any anger towards her. But if you recognize that woman is in hell and she refuses to get out and she's got ego about how things are and sees it, her way and not God's way, well then what use is it to even keep up appearances? The best way is to just cut it off. Like, hey, my door is literally open, even though they might say my door's open. Well, my door's actually open, but I'm not here for the games anymore.
What's wrong? Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, I just think it's funny that. So yeah, sometimes you just gotta cut them off like that, and like, hey, it doesn't mean that you don't love them, doesn't mean you don't wish them well, but it's just there's no time for those games. Like, it's no use, and what's scary, I think, for women, and why you Bond girls have an important role to play, is that you need to stop these women from getting to this old age before it's too late, because at some point it's irreversible. That ego just takes over, and they can really convince themselves that they are born again, yet still have major ego. And it's a weird thing that it's like, you know, and that's the crazy thing. You see people at church that know the truth for 50 years and are still in that ego state.
Especially people that grew up going to church from their parents, and then they fell into religion, so they think like, oh well, I've known about God my whole life, but they've known it in the wrong way. They've intellectualized it, but they haven't really, you know, it's like finding Jesse and that ideology, like with Roy Masters and what's his name? What's that older guy that we watch? Prince.
Derek Prince.
You know, like there's guys like that, and they're the ones that I feel like are the true Christianity, because there's a lot of them out there that are just not right, you know. Definitely not it.
Yeah, and we can see it, and that's the whole thing, and that's why, like I said, I love that we can all share our life experiences with each other, you know, without judgment, and in those moments we do judge each other, we can at least catch it, or somebody next to us can catch that we're judging. All that stuff, it's amazing, and, you know, while I wish I had you guys years ago, I'm glad I have you now, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, same here.
I'm just... Yeah, and it's like I'm just looking forward to whatever God has in store for me coming up, you know, and every challenge that I'm getting, even with men, friends, whatever it is, there is absolutely a light being shined every single time, and I'm learning something with all of it. And, you know, I'm grateful for it, and I hope, you know, I know we shouldn't say this, but, I mean, I do hope if I do meet that person that, you know, he is going to be a leader. I'm not going to come out and tell him that, but he's going to know that he should be a leader. That's not something I got to tell a guy.
If you submit to him, that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all that's left is him being the leader.
Totally.
But hopefully it won't be you making him being a boss maker.
And just know that, I know how we're not supposed to hope for things, because you have to be okay with any and all outcomes.
Let God's will be done instead of imposing our willfulness.
So by being okay with any and all outcomes, and by actually living it right, and especially as a woman, killing that ego once and for all, that's your only hope of getting these hopes to come true. And it doesn't mean it's a guarantee, but if ever there's going to be a chance, if ever it's going to happen, and you're not going to get the wrong guy, where you're like, well, I'm 90% happy, but damn it, you know what, now it's too late. I still picked the guy because he was based on my list, and I didn't let God pick it. So if you want to get that God-given one, you have to kill the ego.
Totally, and as long as I believe and trust in what he has for me, I'm not gonna miss that guy. It's not gonna happen. It's like you can't miss anything God has for you as long as you're aligned with God the entire time. I know that, so it's like, all right, God, I'm starting to get it. I'll focus on you, and I know the other things will fall into place. It's not for me to focus on, you know. It just, that's the thing. And a list means you're focused on something, and you got to just kind of push it to the side, because like you said, God knows what you need, but you know what you want, because it's earthly stuff, but God absolutely knows what you need, and he will not let you leave this earth without it if you really believe in him. He's not going to let that happen.
There's some great women there's some good women in the chat. That one woman was good, but there's some women here in the chat who, like Shelly out in South Dakota, you know, and Slang Insider. These are, you know, they're married women. They got their alpha husbands. They're happy. They're excited to share. Like, they're making dinner for their man and their family, and they embrace that homemaker role. And women got to remember, the ones who aren't married, you know, all these things you think you want, this material stuff, you want your husband to just provide you with just stuff, and you think that that's going to give you peace. That, oh well, he's a millionaire, so I know I'll be happy, because that's so much money that how can we not be happy? Well, trust me, there's plenty of people married to rich people, and they're miserable, because what you want and what you need is not a material man. And what you need is a man who has God's conscience, who's going to love you right, put you in your place, and he will be the best father for your children. He'll be a perfect father.
Isn't it interesting, though, that if, say, you did have a lot of money as a guy, that does seem to make a woman want to submit a little easier than if you didn't.
Because the ego. Because they want that money.
They'd be like, okay, whatever you say, can I have $500 for the week?
Yeah, and that's how you mentioned about how girls they still fall for that because they want the shiny looking dude, and they think, oh, I'll find that unicorn.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're gonna fall for the same trap.
They'll end up
just because he
probably
has money.
cheating on him on the side or something. But like,
Yeah.
oh, you'll be the money, you'll be my daddy, and I'll go get little F boy over
Yeah,
here.
because you can be rich and successful in the material world, but doesn't mean that you overcame and you have God's conscience. So is it really worth it? You know, do you really want to live that way, or do you want to just, even if it's simple, you're living in a log cabin, but you have somebody who will fight for you in the right way, who will raise your kids to be perfect children? You know, what's worth more,
Yeah.
that brand new purse or perfect children?
You're absolutely right, and it's like if you're gonna choose the path of God, it's like, all right, man, like it kind of is our job to make more little soldiers for God's army, and it's like, yeah, you're right. You can't. Some people do like that life where they're traveling, they're buying stuff, they're not really focused on family and things like that matter. It's like that. That's just a thing, and I will say, I think most millionaires that don't have passive income or generational wealth, those kinds of people, if you're gonna, you know, as far as millionaires go, most of it, I was reading a book the other day, I know statistics and all that junk, but they were saying that most of the millionaires in the U.S. are first-generation millionaires. What happens with that is that that's a guy that's not going to be home a lot. That's a guy that's going to have his face in the computer a lot. That's a guy that's going to be traveling a lot. That guy is not really going to be a husband that you need. So there's layers to that whole wanting a guy with money thing. There's a whole lifestyle that comes with that a lot of times, I'm not going to say all the time, but I'll say 8 times out of 10, it's not going to lend itself to what you want to do if you really want to start a family and have that man there all the time and focused and invested. It's very hard to come by.
Exactly.
So
that's what you want.
just get a guy that, it's like just get a guy that can give you a life, like a sustainable life, you know, and that's really what might make a lot of us content. Not happy, content. You know what I mean? Content people make good choices. They make good mothers.
Women don't like to, because they have egos, women don't like to run the race with a man. They want to wait at the finish line and pick a winner. And they think that they can avoid the troubles of the race by picking the winner. But it doesn't, you're not going to overcome the world. You can't stop things from happening. Even if you have a man who's a millionaire, you don't think you're going to have issues to overcome? And like I said, what matters is this guy going to be consistent, serve God, love God more than your ego, and raise perfect children with you? And like, how much more peaceful would it be to know that like you're sitting there with your kids? It doesn't matter where it is. It could be a little shanty shack, even though obviously a good man probably won't do that. He'll find a way to give you something. But you're happy because you have your children. You're at peace. You're not worrying about your bills. You're not worrying about the world. You're just there with your children and your family.
My back. These chairs.
I hope what you just said, I hope it hits so many women's ears tonight, because I'm telling you, that just made my heart flutter. I'm like, okay, men talk like that and mean it, because women will so get their act together if men could get stronger, because I'm telling you, women cannot do it on their own. Like, it's not going to happen.
And it could look like you have success on the worldly aspect, but it's a spiritual battle. And so when I hear you say that women can't make it on their own, that's what I resonate with. Is that women need a strong man that loves what's right to lead them out of their hell, because the world isn't leading us in the right way. You know, they're feminizing man, and they're trying to say God is female you know, and it's looked at in a negative way, right? Where it's not negative or positive, it's just the order of God, and it's about logic and coming to the truth. And like, I would hope, of course, you know, ideally it's like I'd like to have someone who is just as excited about growing and seeking God in my life as me, you know, so that way it becomes a fun. It's fun. It's like, dang, like we're winning. We both have perfect peace.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing. And, you know, a life of being content means different things to different people, and that's the problem with words, because one person can see content as one thing, and another can see it as, oh, I just barely have enough to scrape by. That's not what content means. Content literally means, imagine a glass with water filled right up to the top. You don't need any more, and you don't need any less. It's just right.
I would say even if you have no water in the glass, what you want is peace. That even if your glass is empty, I'm still at peace because I'm grateful that I have a glass to look at. I'm grateful that I'm alive to look at this glass.
But there's a lot of girls with no water in their glass, and they are thirsty.
Listen, just dehydrated. But but anyway, this was really good. Yeah, like we're talking, discussing, fellowshipping amongst the ladies. But again, like I always love to get input from the men because again, we all seriously can benefit from what just the insight that we have to offer each other. And
we always love talking with
you.
you.
The ultimate guide for this, but
yeah, I'm glad and always calling because I think it's important that we need to have more women share their side and share how to overcome. Because I mean, like Trevor brought up a point that with the communities that are suffering the most, women in terms of the sex battle, they suffer and their ego. More women need to speak up. In the black community, which suffers from this victimhood mentality, we need more blacks like Jesse and you to speak up because it's not enough for someone like me or Trevor to say it, because if they're angry at us through a false hate, what good does it come? What good does it do coming from a white guy?
It almost ruins it because they'll be shut off to it because somewhere subconsciously they resent white people. So if a white person is saying the truth, they're gonna deny it. That's why there's something powerful about Jesse being black and saying it. And because I resonated what he said in my life, right? I'm white, but I heard the truth in what he says. And I think it's like I hope Joel and Big Bump, you and whoever else is waking up can use your voices and just like scream it out too, because I think people will listen more.
Absolutely, I totally agree, and I'm starting to recognize more now than ever those moments where I could say something and kind of interject and say, hey, actually, look at it this way. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't, like I told you guys before, like I'm not a political person. It doesn't always have to be political. When it comes to just good and evil, you point out an evil to someone. I personally care more about black men thinking that it's okay to walk away from the children they create. I think that's more damaging than a cop with a knee on somebody's neck any day. Any day. So that's not popular to say, but if somebody's willing to sit down with me and have that conversation, let's talk about it, because that to me is more detrimental. You know what I'm saying? Like just the black life has to start mattering to black people.
For sure.
Stevie Wonder said
it today.
It shouldn't only matter when a person that is of another race takes our life. That's not the only time it should matter.
Deal with abortion.
You know what I'm saying?
We all,
it should matter way before that.
No matter what the situation is, we all got to look at ourselves and our part and our accountability to see how we got into situations. And while people are caught up in the police with the knee on the neck, people are not looking at the root and being like, how did he get in that position to where he had a police officer with his knee on his neck?
Right.
And if you want, if you start there, then you can work your way up to the police officer.
Right. What's more important, getting rid of police brutality or getting rid of the root of criminality? If you can stop criminals from even being created through trauma, then you won't have to worry about supposed police brutality, because people wouldn't be doing crime like that. They would live upright lives.
Yeah, absolutely, and they wouldn't be under the false notion that they even have to go into a life of crime to make it or to succeed or to get a little bit of change in their pocket. But I've never understood that. I've really never understood petty crime. I always thought it was just, it's like if you're going to do it, go big. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be, exchanging fake money. Like, go be a drug kingpin or something. Do something massive, bro. If you're going to do it, like, come on now.
Crime is crime. Crime is crime, and people are trying to change it. Like, they'll say hate crime. Like, what crime isn't rooted in hate? All crime is rooted in hate. There's no hate crime.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And everything is, and I believe once people really understand how hate really works, you'll see how you operate and you'll see how you are hateful in your everyday life, because laying down with the woman that's not your wife, that's hateful.
That's
you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
imposing your ego on a man or trying to manipulate him with your looks or your words. That's hateful.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's evil. Like, call it what it
Seriously,
is.
impregnating a woman and leaving her, that's hateful.
That's right.
All of that's hateful. The hate starts way before somebody puts their knee on somebody's neck. Believe that, you know? Then that's what I want my people to see. But again, my people, y'all know I still use that. I mean, the blacks.
What's wrong with the blacks?
They still excuse.
Friday.
I'm telling you, man, it's like we excuse bad behavior. But part of that is Hollywood, too. That's a whole nother conversation. I know that's where we started, and I was hoping to kind of talk about that, but I'm tired of the black narrative in Hollywood, too. Because if I see one more slave movie, I mean, one more movie about us being discriminated against, a civil rights era movie, any of that stuff, it's like, why are we still pushing those movies? Why? For what? Who is it helping?
Because it's like that's Hollywood. That's Hollywood being just like Al Sharpton and Maxine Waters and all those people. They are using the blacks to entice anger in them and create a divide. They're keeping them angry by setting that tone in those movies to try to make them feel validated in their anger, and it's destructive.
We're watching. This is decades of Hollywood propping up this anti-white narrative. When, again, the facts show that the whites did not own the majority of slaves. Whites didn't control the slave trade. They didn't own the ships. They were traded in higher numbers. There were more white slaves based on our population size than there ever were black slaves in America. But they don't want to talk about that. They want black people to hate white people. They want white people to be ashamed of something they didn't do. And now we're watching the fulfilling of this programming, which was their ultimate goal. This was years in the making. They were slowly doing this because this is the only way to destroy this country is from within. Yeah, and I was reading, something told me again, just, you know, whenever I think about reading the Bible, I just kind of open it to wherever, you know, I'm like led to read. But I was reading Jude, and I guess Jude is right before Revelation. And it was interesting because Jude was kind of talking about that. Like, the letter that he wrote was saying all of that. It was talking about how different communities follow different narratives and they believe certain things. And it's really just to destroy what was created. You know what I mean? Like, it was made to destroy God's creation so Satan could take over. And it actually mentions, I think that part of the Bible mentions Satan's synagogue, or the synagogue of Satan, or whatever you were talking about that one day, Beard Dude. I thought about that, and I'm like, holy crap, that's what Rich was talking about. Exactly. I have to research this more, because now I'm fascinated. So, and now you realize that a lot of these guys that the media has told you to doubt, you know, that they would call a white nationalist, a white racist. You know, some of them have been seeing things for years that people in the big cities refuse to acknowledge because they've been brainwashed not to look at it. Just like I said, the fact that whites didn't own all the slaves, but another demographic owned the majority of them. Does that mean that they're all guilty? No. It's just an observation that can help you understand what's at play here, who's really serving good, who's serving evil, and how not to fall for all this propaganda.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And when I told a friend the other day in Instagram, he said, so you're saying that, you know, because I posted all your responses that you had to that question that I had that one day. Everybody was so mad about that. They're like, New World Order, what does that even mean? And I'm like, well, listen, who do you think runs Hollywood? Who do you think is influencing your dumb ass to go out there and drive that car and do Molly or whatever the hell they're doing now? I'm like, who do you think is influencing you to do that, dummy? Hollywood. So who's controlling that? I said it's not white people. White people would not intentionally want you to hate them. There is someone else doing it. And I told him, I said, it's the invisible man that threw the rock in the crowd, and now he's got his hand behind his back.
And then I know we've said this before, but to add to that is, like, if anyone's ever seen the movie American History X, we've said this before. It's about, you know, skinheads and racism, and that Edward Norton's in it, and that he went to jail and all that kind of stuff. But they made his character say all these things that there was a lot of truth in what he said. But because his character was this white supremacist, you know, swastika having guy that was hateful and everything like that, it made you identify with anything that talks and says anything like that, to associate it with that character and be like, oh, white supremacist, that's a horrible person and all that stuff. So it eliminated, it's like wizardry to eliminate any of those conversations to have because it automatically makes you put in your mind, oh, that means that kind of person.
Yeah, any white guy who mentions these statistics, any white guy who talks about how immigration was a controlled way to destroy this country, if you look at 1965, the Immigration Act, we didn't have this much immigration. They opened the floodgates, and it wasn't an accident. It was to generate the climate we have today, which is a divided country with cultures that are not assimilating. So we have a country that's lost its place. All the values that made America desirable are now being washed out because you have competing cultures that don't care to assimilate. And all that is not an accident.
Right.
It's divide and conquer. But to mention that, especially if you're a white guy, like Trevor says, you are now labeled a racist, an anti-Semite, and you are not allowed to discuss that. And that should clue you in as to who's controlling this propaganda. And you start looking at Hollywood. Who runs it? Hollywood.
No, it does. And, you know, the interesting thing is I was telling you guys, you know, one of the guys, well, the Jewish baker, I don't know if you remember that guy, but he's a writer in Hollywood. And I remember he was sitting and we were talking about it. And I said, what are you working on right now? And he's like, oh, I'm working on a story about Etta James. And I said to him, I said, how the hell are you, a Jewish guy, gonna tell the story of a black woman? Explain this to me. What does that even look like? And he's like, I have no clue, but I'm gonna figure it out. So I'm like, okay, you're just gonna make some stuff up, is what you're saying. That's basically what we're getting at here. So we had a conversation about it, and I asked him, like, how is it that these Jewish people can tell the stories of different nationalities? How do you guys know that you're getting it accurately? And he had no answer. He's like, I don't know that we can. He's like, but the movie's probably still going to get made. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. So I'm not like that up close and personal with the whole narrative, but that was just a little slight.
But people can get by. People get by with telling stories about other races like that because they play off the emotion and victimhood of it, and that pulls on the heartstrings of people to be like, yeah, I am a victim.
No, it totally does, and that's the thing that I want, you know, or I know I can't control anything, but that is one thing that I do hope comes out of all of this, like us being confined in our homes, watching what was happening over the last few weeks. Just know that there is one central power that's creating a narrative for every race under the sun.
Right.
None of us are in control of our own image. They pick and choose what they want, and they show it to the world. They curate it. Right? We're all of our images are curated. Whether you believe it or not doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that it's not happening. It is a thing. Okay? Like sitting and talking to that guy, it really confirmed something for me. It was like, wow, this really does happen. These white guys or Jewish guys really think they can sit and tell the story about Native Americans and have it be accurate, about African Americans, black people, whatever, and have it be accurate.
Because they're not really telling a story. They're not telling a story. They're selling a story.
Exactly. So it's like, now I understand why all black movies are set in the 50s and 60s. Now I understand why, you know, seriously, when you think about it, it's like, that's why it's set up that way. You know what I'm saying?
See the way my bank is set up.
When you start really paying attention, it's amazing.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, you just keep, just stay awake, see what's happening in the world, see how they're controlling you. And like what people would say, like they may acknowledge these facts about, you know, this particular demographic that overwhelmingly controls Hollywood media and finance, and is part of these, you know, finances Black Lives Matter and funds these anti-Western movements and anti-Christian movements. However, the issue is not to blame them, and it's just like what Jesse would say, it's not all, but a hell of a lot. But more importantly is that once you can see it, you break the spell, you don't fall for it, and you don't hate them for it, because they're going to do what they're going to do. You know, evil is evil, and those people can't help it. They're under the spell of a spirit. So don't hate them, but now you can you can act against it. You can take your kids out of public schools. You can teach them, you know, the gospel in the right way by living it, and make sure that they don't fall for it. They don't get into porn. They don't fall for Hollywood. They don't listen to these people who are trying to advocate for the destruction of their culture.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, and this journey, it is not an easy one, and it's not meant to be easy, because the thing I'm starting to see for myself is that to really so against the grain. Because, Rich, I really see you going hard. And I'm like, dude, this dude is going so against the grain. And it's like, people like that are necessary because sometimes it's going to take that hard 180 or whatever to really push the tide the other way, because man, the wave is going in one direction so hard right now.
Right.
But the thing is, we can see it though. I'm telling you, like 2 years ago, I would not have been able to see this. I would have been riding that wave out there with my fists in the air, all kinds of stuff. But now I'm like, that's not the answer. I don't totally know what it is, but I know it's not that. And it's like that is becoming so apparent and clear. I only hope that God can give me whatever it is that I need to speak when I need to speak, and know the right time to do those things. You know, I'm not a man. I can't really do it the way you do it, Rich. But it's like
He will reveal it in a way
when the opportunities come.
He'll reveal it in a way that's appropriate for you as a woman, so you can speak up. Because, like Trevor says, and I totally agree, and it's something that hopefully we can keep talking about for in the upcoming streams, is that people of color in this country have almost a bigger role to play, because you guys need to check those who see a color first as identity. So the blacks who are angry, you can reach them better, because they'll at least listen to you a little bit longer than they will listen to someone like me or Trevor speaking the truth. And just like Jesse's able to get to some, Jesse has haters that follow him forever, black people who completely disagree, say they hate him, but somehow they just can't stop watching him, because I think something inside knows that Jesse's not wrong. So you guys can do more damage against this evil spirit in the community that looks like you, just like we can help whites get a backbone, because we can say, hey, look, we're white and we're not scared of this, and we don't care about these labels, because I know what I'm not and I know what I am.
Yeah, one of the things I realized to have a conversation with white people about is to help open their eyes, is ask them the question, are you into your whiteness? You know, and most white people probably be like, no. Like, do you know many white people who are into their whiteness? Probably not, maybe. But then you ask, do you know any black people that are into their blackness? And yeah, a lot, most, you know? So it's like, why is one okay and one not okay? And because I personally think that nobody should be into their whatever it is, because you don't get your identity from that. Your identity comes from within. It's a spirit. So that's one thing I talk about.
I'm telling you. No, you're right, and that it's never more apparent for me than when I go to Bond on Sunday and see every color in that room. It's crazy. That's how you know it's a spirit, because it's like, dude, this thing, no matter what part of the journey we're all on, we all have that common, like, base right there. It's like, okay, we all are here. So it's got to be bigger than color, man. Like, it has to be bigger than that. It's got to be, you know? Because how can I agree with this white dude over here, or this Hispanic chick over here, or this former drug addict in the back? Like, how do we all know the same thing? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's just it's bigger than resonating with your race.
Here's some food for thought.
I'm like, now I'm gushing, so I'll be quiet. But
I'm curious what the chat thinks of this. This is that a lot of people were saying that Obama wanted a third term or something like that, just like they said that President Trump could get a third term. And what I've heard I saw a video recently about this, that Obama did have a third term, and it was through the deep state, and so he's been having his third term under the radar, and that all this divisiveness and injustice and, you know, black against the whites and stuff like that thing is all set up and designed that way. So because Obama right now is being investigated, and Trump's been talking about Obamagate and all that kind of stuff, and it's set up and designed that way so that when he is going to get indicted or whatever the word would be, but he gets busted for treason. Is that designed that way so that they can, be like, oh, this is injustice, this is racism, and all that stuff? Because it's a perfect setup for that while he's being investigated. Just like Hillary being, like the whole...
right, the first black president is about to be indicted for treason against his country, for helping try to overthrow it even after he was out of office. And if it does happen, which I hope it does, because he deserves to go to jail, if not hang for it, you're going to see that all these riots are, like Trevor said, this is geared to get ready so that when it does happen, if it happens, they can just cry racism and say it's because he's black. It's because he's black and not because he's a traitor to his nation.
Yeah, I'm curious about what the chat would think. What thinks about that?
Yeah, what does the
No,
chat
you're
think?
absolutely right, and it's the reason. What is happening? Like, okay, with the multiculturalism, here's what happens. In my humble opinion, obviously,
My humble opinion.
When you're more invested in your individual culture, you forget that America is a nation. We are all supposed to stand for like one similar ideal. That is what it's supposed to be. That's why you come here, because you're trying to escape whatever it was that was in your home country. So if you're here and you don't believe in America, you don't support America, we are so easy to divide because we don't even respect the land we stand on. It's like, it boggles my mind, and we show the powers that be every single day that we're so easy to manipulate because again, I have a birth certificate and a passport. I'm an American citizen, okay? Like, I'm never going to say I'm something else. I do not have more allegiance to black people than I do to just an American that was born here. We are one and the same. I don't care what anybody says.
That's right.
Maybe that'll change some days, but it's the same today. And like I said, I would be more comfortable fighting for America, not fighting for blacks, not fighting for Hispanics, not fighting to be a sovereign race over here in the corner. No, that will come. That will be its own thing. That's the natural flow of things. You don't have to put a focus on that.
And on that
the
point, you're saying that point you mentioned was like, people don't think of the bigger picture, that while we're all divided and we're destroying our own cities, we have enemies of different countries who are looking at us and seeing that. So if we're killing each other and we're all destroying our own country, that's a perfect time for them to be like, oh, we're moving in.
Exactly. We project weakness. It's blood in the water. Our adversaries like China, these people.
It's working,
Yeah, I said the point is, it's America first. And if you can't get with that, well, then get on a plane and get the hell out of here.
And you don't get your identity from America either, that's another thing. But the values of America is what makes America beautiful, is that it's founded in Christianity and values and character and family. So that's what it is. That's what you get your identity in Christ in the way He was. Him as the example, and everything else follows. It's just it works.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, you guys are right. And like I said, just, for me, I've already tried to say, hey, I'm an American with people that look just like me, and they literally were about to lynch me. Those were not white people. Those were people that looked just like me, that were highly offended that I have allegiance to the country I was born in. How dare I? So, again, people need to maybe expand their literary repertoire a little bit. If you don't want to read something like The Art of War, just to kind of, study how these things work and how, your enemy will always observe you and things like that, and the stuff that you don't even think they're looking at, they can totally come in and cut you off at the knees.
Exactly.
Read The Art of War, or even, what's the other book? 48 Laws of Power. If you read something like that, it's like it really does give you perspective, because with that guy, Robert Greene, what he does is he pulls historical incidences into what he, and then he kind of puts it into current context. So he tells you, this is what this general did, this is how you can do it in your regular life. Now, you don't have to follow the advice, but the information and the connections that are made are very valid, and they're very important. And America needs to know, as much as we're, yapping and being loud and being proud about that, like you guys said, people are watching, and they're just waiting to strike. Because they can see all of our weaknesses. We're putting it out there for the world to see. It's insane.
Yep.
So, anyway, y'all, my steak is cold.
Okay, go eat your food. Thank you, Victoria. Always a pleasure.
I know. This is why. Oh, what's that book? Wait a minute. I need a screenshot of that.
It's winning.
Fractal Chaos Power Laws.
Yeah,
nice.
very good book.
I mean, it's a crazy book, man. It's like takes you to the foundation of everything. It's nuts.
That's cool. All All right, guys. Well, thanks for letting me chat. This is why I got to come back in because I take up so much time. I'm so sorry
How about
for the
this?
chat and
How about this
everything,
Sunday
but-
if you're free, maybe?
I did.
I don't know if Trevor's not. We're not doing anything. Maybe Sunday.
What?
Victoria, would you come
Yeah,
stream?
let me know,
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you know
Wait, no,
I'm
actually,
available,
no,
so just
I
let me
can't
know. And,
Sunday. Oh, yeah.
and when I get my gun, y'all, I'm going to have to share with y'all. So,
Okay.
You know.
Well, we'll see you at church, God willing.
All right, have a good night, guys.
Bye.
Girl, bye.
Amazing. Yeah. So see, I mean, she's a black woman, and
She's black.
she can see.
She's
things.
She's not only a black woman. She's a black woman eating black Angus.
Yeah, and she could see things that some of these white people who are labeled racist are saying that they're not lies and they're not hateful. Observing statistics and demographic change is not hateful. It's being honest, and you're seeing what's happening to this country. So that's what we all have to do. Stop falling for the labels. Don't be scared of labels. Know what you are. Know what you are not. Oh yeah, question, Trevor from Slang Insider.
Slanging,
she wants to
slanging
know-
things and house and chains, yeah.
She wants to know: are you the only Christ follower in your family? Christian, I would say. Are you the only Christian in your family?
I can't speak on anybody else but myself because I'm not them. But I will say that I wasn't raised in the beliefs that I have now. And I think my family is all believer in God, but I think that they are on their path to figuring out what that is for them. But I can't really say.
Yeah, I was telling her I'm the only Christian in my family, my immediate blood family. We were raised Roman Catholic. My dad's side is Roman Catholic as well. The Norwegian. Oh, it's Mr. Bang, Mr. Emmanuel Bang. Is this Mr. Bang, Mr. Emmanuel Bang?
Yes, it is.
What's up, brother?
Hey, what's going on?
Let me get you plugged in really quick because this phone needs some juice. And let me set you up here by the camera. All right, Mr. Emmanuel. No, question. What does your name mean again? It means something to do with Christ. What is it?
God is with us.
God is with us. That's a beautiful name. Wow. So what's on your mind,
How y'all
brother?
doing?
You're an Israelite, right?
Did you have any white guys kiss your boots this week?
No. I've seen the video, but they got a lot of people on their team.
They do. It's amazing how they do that.
I was gonna ask. So like, the thing is that how like when you woke up, like how long did that process take y'all?
Trevor?
I mean, I'll say that I'm still growing in and now. I don't know. I don't see it like I'm at the end of the tunnel. Because when I woke up, I started waking up, I thought I had enlightenment. But then looking back on that, I was like, man, it gets better. Because my ego plays tricks on me. It makes me think that I'm whatever. And the more and more I realize things, the more I know I'm nothing. That I don't need to have an identity of me, of myself. It's just really, at the end of the day, I'm an observer. I'm on a ride and I just look around, and the more I try to have an opinion or a feeling about anything, the more I'm going to suffer and be deceived. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question right.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine.
I would say, for me, it's been like almost 3 years since we, it's about the same time I met Trevor and found Jesse. And I'd say that it took about that long because I was growing into it this whole time. And, just when I think I've leveled up, I go somewhere else. But I think this year has been the most amazing year because I have lost absolute fear of everything. Like, I don't care about these labels anymore, which is why I tackle some of these subjects that I used to kind of be fearful about because that label scared me. I didn't know how to go about it, but now I don't just do it because I want to do. I'm not willful about going into these discussions. I let it come to me. The words just come to my head, and I put them out, and I share the stories, and I share the info, and it's not coming from an ego place. It feels like a revelation, and it's been nice because I don't have any chatter in my head about it. So, like I said, Trevor said, I'm still growing into it. I'm sure 20 years from now it'll be even more amazing, but definitely took about 3 years to get to where I'm at today.
Yeah. Yeah, because even asking that question, because that made me think about even like the process of me getting through, going through all of this, and like, being in Chicago and growing up in these situations and lifestyles, meeting all these people. So it just got to the point where I'm like understanding that it's like you have to meet people where they are, because a lot of people are just so far away from us. Is that because even being in the state we are, it's kind of like you said, there's no end of the tunnel because we're still growing. Yeah. But a lot of people are not even near us. It's
Right.
like they're so far away. Is that even when you try to reach out, they kind of block away.
Yep.
That was one thing I've noticed.
No, it's true. And speaking of that,
but there's a fine line in it, because like you can get caught up in your ego tricking you and thinking you're better than somebody too, and I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but I like that you said far away, because it's just different, right? And so it's like I'm careful, like, because I know that my thoughts can seduce me into to thinking that I'm deeper than somebody, or I'm better than somebody, or I'm farther along than somebody else. But I do notice a total difference when I come into, because when I listen to other people talk, I'm coming to their level of listening to them. I'm trying to understand. And when I'm in their world, listening, I don't want to lose myself in that, but I'm also, I'm objective, but I'm subjective enough to listen and understand where they're coming from. But then when I'm out of it, I'm like, whoa, man, like, that's crazy that there's such a wall up that they cannot understand where I'm at. I can understand where they're at, but they can't understand where I'm at.
On that note, Emmanuel, since kind of touching on what Trevor brought up last night about how, people of the different races and backgrounds, ethnicities, can be far more effective. The way Jesse was effective in waking up white people, because no one expects a black man to defend white people that way. How do you deal with trying to reach these people who are so far away from understanding? How do you do it in a way that's unique to you to reach them? Because, since they probably would be sooner, it'd be easier for them to listen to you than it is for a white guy like me or Trevor to tell them what's what.
Right.
How do you go about it?
Yeah, because that was the revelation that I went through, because even thinking about it, it just came to like a conversation, even when I'm like talking to like other black people, and they're talking about, oh yeah, can't even go to the candy store, can't walk down the street, can't jog, you just kind of think about those moments, and I'm like, I have moments like that, I've been through these things, and I'm just kind of thinking about, okay, let me give them perspective, because like even when you were saying about perspective with Victoria, it's kind of like people need perspective of things, because they don't see what you see, because even what you experience, they wouldn't understand. So it's like, even telling my experience of my past, it gives people a better understanding of the lifestyles between the, police brutality and then like gun violence. Because, it's like, you still have to break it down to people, because it's like it just seems like they're like sheep, You just think about it, like people, you have to keep repeating yourself over and over, and then just follow the crowd, And that's why I just kind of meet them at their level, because even they're passionate about something. Them being so passionate about it, I can meet them down there and talk to them about it, and then give a different perspective of the situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think that it's because their identity that they've created for themselves is their ego. And the world has imposed that identity onto them, so they are on a totally different frequency than and so their real identity within themselves is buried away, and it has that wall up, and they're not allowed. They're going along with what's been imposed on them. The lens and filter they look through is, if you're looking for something and expect something, most of the time you're going to see whatever you're looking for. You seek and you'll find. So if you're fearful of walking down the street and you're going to get by the cops, that fear, even though you're feeling it and it seems real, it doesn't necessarily have to be real, because it's interesting to me to hear, a black person say, I don't experience racism and it doesn't exist, and then hear another person who's a friend or someone say, you don't have to worry about being shot and killed every day. How is
Yeah.
it such a contrast between experiences?
Between the two black men, one guy who says he never sees it, and another guy who says that he thinks about it all day, every day, supposedly, that he's gonna get pulled over, even if he's living right, got a good job. Supposedly, he's walking around scared for his life at all times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was one thing, because being in college, and and like going to college, meeting like all these different people. Because on my first year, I was like hanging out with a lot of white people. But my second year, that's when I started hanging out with black people. And a lot of the times, it's like I actually where they're from. Most of the time they're like, okay, I'm from St. Louis, from here, from there. And then when people said that they were from Chicago, they never lived in the city of Chicago. They lived in the suburbs. So the suburbs are completely different living in the city. And a lot of people would say, oh, I'm from Chicago, but I'm like, you talking about South Side Chicago or like North, East, something, But they'll be talking about, oh, they live like 2 hours away from Chicago, so their experience is nowhere equal to what I've been through, Because it's like day and night, even when you bring up these different cities, because even St. Louis, it's like, Chicago is basically number one for like gang violence, because that's like the capital of all of it,
Do you know when like gangs and stuff like started? Like, how did that start? Because if I look back to like say when Jesse was growing up and stuff like that, there wasn't gangs, was there?
Yeah, it wasn't a lot of that going on, because even in the black community back in his time, a majority of them were Christian and they had their own business. So
right.
like he talked about, he got his own farm, like his family had a farm.
Right. So how do you think
majority of
how do you think gangs came about? Like when did that start happening? Do you know?
That probably started with Black Panther movement, like around that time.
Yeah.
Because black people were sophisticated up to a point when they got like violence.
So it is around the civil rights movement.
Yeah, so it basically the civil rights movement kind of started a lot of things in the black community.
Mm-hmm.
Even Lyndon B. Johnson signed a lot of things into law, the Welfare Act and all that stuff. It's like most of that stuff he kind of signed into, and it affected the black community.
Right.
That's so crazy because you think, the world is trying to tell us that was such a good thing.
Right. And you remember that quote that Lyndon B. Johnson said where he said, he used a much more colorful word, but he said, I'll have these Negroes voting Democrat for the next 200 years.
Yeah, and that was the number one thing I saw. And I'm like, why haven't black people saw this? That should be on the face of everybody's page.
Right.
If you're seeing somebody that's that violent towards a race, like even Margaret Sanger, she said she want to eradicate the black race. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are evil people that's trying to eradicate just the black race, because that's what they don't like, And nobody talks about it. That's not a conversation that's coming up, but I've been seeing it a lot lately now. Because there's one lady, I think her name is Brianna Betty. You can find her. This is a black lady. She's going around all Black Lives Matter protests. She said, y'all not protecting our baby. He's like, forget y'all. Y'all don't care about black lives. Like, she's going around every crowd. This black woman.
Good.
It's crazy.
It's true. It's ridiculous that they're gonna act so indignant about a handful of police versus unarmed black shootings, where the majority of them are justified because the person was aggressive and made moves that put the cop's life in danger, versus the hundreds of thousands of babies who were killed in abortions, the black on black crimes, the murder rate in Chicago. They're killing each other every day, and there's no white people in those gangs making them shoot. They don't have a white leader for the Crips and the Bloods, but they don't care.
Yeah, and like even them selling the baby body parts, and like even the kids missing. Like, a lot of people not talking about that either. They were saying that the majority of the black kids were going missing over the white kids, which is really strange, because it's like I keep hearing it. It's not like I'm trying to make a thing out of it, but it's like even when Margaret Sanger was saying that she wanted to eradicate the black race, and that was a quote from her. And you know, and a lot of people don't think about these things. Like there was people that had so much hate in their heart, they really wanted to get rid of a whole race. You know.
Yep. Since you're black, have you ever felt like a victim in your life?
Now, the only thing that was the thing I had to bring up to people because you know I'm living in Chicago and look, I put in perspective and I told my wife about it. She was like, "Wow, I didn't know that." Because you think about it, there's people in Chicago they get shot, and there's kids that get shot too. And when these kids get shot, they make memorials, and they make the memorials of where they get shot. And most of the time they put like balloons, candles, pictures, you know, this memorial is in this broad daylight. People don't think about it. That memorial's still there. Kids still have to go to school. So every day I'm walking past these memorials while the balloons deflate and the memorials are gone. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people don't see the perspective of that, where you imagine that you're in elementary school, every time you go hang out with a friend or you go to school, you see these memorials of dead kids or people in that location.
Yeah, no, it's true. You know, if you care about lives, then care about them all. You know, don't sit there and try to make like. Why do they always end up defending some questionable guy with terrible character? It always ends up being someone who has a shady past, a career criminal, and they make him out to be some kind of martyr, throwing him in a gold casket with all kinds of hoopla. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is real crazy out there, and that's all. It's like a lot of people don't see that. Like even you seeing all these, like even living in Chicago, you see friends, families. They don't go to school. Funerals every week, and it's like people don't see these things because it doesn't hit the airwaves. Like even there were people protesting these gang violence murders. You know, they protested, but it never hit national news. Mm-hmm. It's always local.
Yep. It's controlling the narrative. They don't want black people to see the truth. They want you to feel like a victim and to hate white people
because they're using them. They're using them for their political agendas, and it makes me think about that whole third term with Obama. You know, the deep state, another term with the deep state that's causing, leading up to this diversity because he's about to be indicted or whatever. That's interesting. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's definitely quite the movie this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. As I enjoy the show.
One last question, Emmanuel. What is your answer to the question I posed earlier? Why do Americans have to accept everyone?
You said, why do Americans have to accept everyone?
Yeah.
I don't think it's more of like an acceptance. It's like, you know, if you want to have free speech, you want to live free, you know, you want lower taxes, you just want to live your life, and we have different views, that's fine with me. So it's like, you're going to do your thing, I'm going to do my thing. But it's like, at the end of the day, we have to meet somewhere in the middle. Because, and this can bring up, connect to the thing where, like, what I'm saying is that I see, like, the foundation is in community. You know, a lot of people don't talk about it. You know, you have to go to the people that's around you first so you can get to other people around them. So then it can become like a chain reaction. So you just have to get the communities going so you can meet with your neighbors. Because a lot of people don't meet their neighbors anymore. They're like, even when I hear stories from the past, good old days, you know, these neighbors met up, they watched their kids. Like even my mom told me these stories. And this was in Chicago. Asian folks watching black kids while they playing. You know, you don't hear these stories anymore. How people love each other and hang out, you know, do things together, meetings, you know, city hall meetings. A lot of people don't do these things anymore.
That's true. Well, thank you for calling in, Emmanuel.
We gotta still have you come by, man, so we can talk more with you.
Yeah, I think you said weekends are best or weekdays.
It'll probably be weekdays, but we'll see.
Okay.
You know, I'm still trying.
All right, bro. Well, thank you,
be in
man.
touch, man. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Hey, thank y'all.
Take care, bro.
God bless.
You too.
All right. Well, I think that's
Yeah, that's a good stream right there. At least stream time. I won't say the stream was good. No stream was good.
I think we'll wrap it up there. Did you have an answer for why do Americans have to accept everybody, or a take on that?
Well, when I hear that question, I think of different cultures in different countries. You know, America has opened up the doors to immigrants, right? But I think that it's been taken advantage of in a lot of senses, in that other cultures come to America and celebrate their culture and their country here, and it's gotten out of hand where, you know, America doesn't have its own culture, and it's like America's not allowed to have their own culture. And we've been shamed into being taught that when you said accept everyone, it's like we're not allowed to want to keep a majority or want to keep America. It has to be I think the minorities and immigrants want America to be a majority immigrant,
Right.
as opposed to, you know, I remember somebody was telling me before that America doesn't have a native language. And I'm like, English is America's native language. That's why we go to school and you have an English class, you know?
Yeah. The reason why I asked that is because there's this myth that's been perpetuated only for a couple of years since they opened the floodgates of immigration, that America is just some giant multicultural experiment that just has to let everybody in, even if it's at the sacrifice of its own values and its founding principles. And I think that's completely wrong. This country was a white Christian nation longer than it was some melting pot. And that whole melting pot idea is part of the communist subversion. And in saying that it needs to be and remain a white Christian nation doesn't mean that there aren't people here of different colors and backgrounds. But that's the overall guiding principle. If I go to Japan, then the overall guiding principle are Japanese values and whatever religion they are. I will respect and maintain Japanese people's rights to maintain that culture, because that is what makes Japan Japan. And it would be wrong of me to say Japan is multicultural. They need to let everybody in and get rid of their culture because it's racist.
I think that part of too, I don't know who was it when they said they started calling blacks African Americans. I think that was also no coincidence, because I think they're getting black people to identify with them being from somewhere else, right? And so now they're getting them to identify with other immigrants, right? As opposed to identifying as Americans first. Because they are Americans, they were born here, and they did have a lot to do with this country, more so than immigrants who moved here, or anchor babies, or whatever, you know?
Unknown caller.
Oh, man.
All right, we'll do one quick one. I think this is Mauricio.
But I think that it's by design. And I want black people to identify as Americans and love their country.
To accept, press 1. To send a voice.
Hey, Maurice, you're gonna be the last caller for the night. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing very well, and you?
Amazing, man. Thank you for calling in. I know I see you on IG all the time, so I appreciate you calling
That's
in.
Beard Man. What's cracking, bro?
I'm doing pretty well, man. I'm calling in from Montreal, Canada, man.
Hey!
Oh, that's what's up. How do you guys spell Canada?
Yeah.
No, how do you spell it?
Sorry. MONTREAL.
No, Canada.
Well, it's W.
No, it's C.
W.
I'll tell you, it's
No.
it's CANADA.
Canada, eh?
No.
A? Canada, eh?
No, it's WAKA.
Wakanda.
Whatever, man. Hey, it's like super late here, and I'm freaking tired, man. But I'm really glad to. Okay, first things first. Okay, you know the song from Eric Clapton, Layla, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, just replace it by Beta, and it would be such a great remix.
Beta.
Got me on my knees, Beta.
You got me on my knees, Beta.
Begging, darling, please, Beta.
It does sound very beta. That's perfect. It's so beta. That song is very beta. That's a brilliant insight.
So, are you African Canadian?
No.
Actually, not African Canadian. My dad is. Oh, shit, sorry. My dad is Haitian, but he's also like just a little bit mixed because he's like a little bit sorry, I have a little bit of problem with my English.
No problem.
By pronouncing it. Sorry, man, because I'm French. Okay.
No, you're good.
It's okay. Oui. Parlez-vous?
Right on. So my dad is Haitian. He was born there, and he has the same kind of skin tone as Joel.
He black.
So yeah, he black too, man. So
You said Haitian, not Asian, right? Like the island Haiti.
I said Asian.
yeah, that's
Haitian,
right.
yeah, because Haiti was a French colony, so that's why.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was. He was there when it was the big dictatorship with Duvalier, and then he had to flee with the whole family. So
Do you
pretty
think,
hardcore.
since you are of Haitian descent, do you think that Wyclef Jean is a little weasel and that he abuses his connection to Haiti for political gain?
You know what? That guy, as far as I know, is exactly what you said. You know, I really enjoy his music growing up because I'm 34 years old, so I'm a little bit older than you guys. I don't know how old are you,
Oh, I know. Yeah, he's a little older. He's a lot older. I'm only 22.
Yeah, we're only 21.
Okay, well there you go. Okay, that's what I thought.
No, I'm just kidding.
But, yeah.
I was born in 82.
You know, great song like Gone Till November. I'll be gone till November.
Oh yeah,
Great song.
I love that one.
But anyway, yeah. So yes, he is really a weasel because right now you just hear "fuck off." Sorry for the cuss word.
F off.
You hear absolutely you hear absolutely nothing from this guy. I don't know what he's doing, but there's a reason he's staying low. You know, Haiti still needs a whole lot of help.
Right.
But whatever. No, it's yeah.
Right. No, it's funny because when I was younger, the same thing. I didn't think about these things, and then when I woke up, I looked into all these things, and you realize how the very people who claim they're helping Haiti, the Clintons, Wyclef Jean, all these people are part of the exploitation of these countries, and it's the same thing that's happening here. It's like people let the wolves into the hen house, and they don't see it, and they keep holding the wolf up like he's some kind of example of a leader when they're eating your people alive.
It's incredible, but really, I mean, you know, we pretty much all agree here that Jesse nails it right, you know, right on the freaking spot. I mean, here is the last bastion, really, because Europe is almost done, you know, but here is the last bastion. Well, okay, precisely, the USA is the real last bastion of the values that are still, you know, they have been tampered with, and they have been, you know, I don't know, messed up in a way that
perverted.
a whole lot of things, bad things have come in and have messed up everything. You know, like the letter from the Archbishop. You know, he said that there's a deep state and there's a deep church.
Exactly.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
This is the last bastion of Christian values in Western culture that people aspire to live in those nations, and most people are too blind to see that they're being seduced into destroying the very nation and values that they wish they had, because they've been convinced that they're angry about something.
Yeah. No, I mean, the West has been under attack for so long. You know, like here in Canada, I'm in Quebec, and here, it's so stupid. You know, just like Nick said, it's French versus English, you know. They always make sure that there's some kind of divide somewhere, somehow. Even if it's just, you know, with language, there you go. Because it's historically, Quebec has been very liberal. And liberal means what? means identity this, identity that, blah 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 blah. You know, all the way. And then the conservative movements here have been, you know, some have been okay, but never been strong because, as so many know, we've got our so-called independence through talking. You know, just talking, just negotiating and hey, what if, and still today we have the queen on our money, but whatever, man. It's still one of the best places in the world. So there's some kind of way to keep it. I don't know if we will, but for you guys, man, the thing about you guys is the whole world has the eyes on you, and especially Donald Trump, man. That guy is a freaking tank.
Right.
I really never thought that this guy would just. I mean, it has to be God. It has to be something more than himself.
You know what I see when I watch Trump? What I like about him is that most people these days are so easily moved. You know, and Trump is immovable. You cannot move him. And I think that people of God are that way. You know, if you got God on your side, you cannot be moved.
You're so right, man. Exactly. And I don't know about you guys, but for myself and so many people on IG and all that, when there's things happening and everything, and we're all like, oh my God, just do something, just like act like a freaking dictator already. We don't care anymore, man. Just do it, okay? You have to act quick. And he doesn't, and we get pissed off. We're just like, oh, yeah. And then we go on Black Pill's IG, and then we're like, yeah, no, you're right. And then we come back, and then we just keep on watching, and then we're like, oh, there's so many things that get revealed even more if he does nothing.
Right.
And then people are like, yo, what the heck is going on, man? What the heck is this? Even people that we thought that were just like, no, I wear my mask, I wear my gloves, I keep my distance, etc., etc. You know, there's some deprogramming that happens in all that revealing. It's great because back then when there was some weird false flag events, the internet was not as advanced, and therefore the information wasn't getting all like spread out as quickly, and there wasn't as many woke people. Post 9/11, everything changed, and here we are, man. And there's that whole Q thing going on the side, and I don't know, man. It's what a crazy world. But all thanks to Jesse, though, you can watch and observe, and actually, with the same example as Trump.
Yeah.
You wait and see. You know, you're like, oh my God, something should happen right now. No, wait.
Yeah. Wait and see.
The whole thing with General Milley and all that. Oh man, you know, I was watching, you know, with the Joel and Chris, and wow, I understand that. I mean, even Jesse was like, what the, you know. What is going on here? But I don't know, for some reason, man. God, you know?
Yeah, I know.
It's faith in God, period, right?
Yep. No, it's just wait and see. Speak up. I mean, and part of what we're seeing now is just a big revelation. All this, everything that's going on, this chaos in the world is revealing, you know, what spirit people are serving, who has fear, who has hate, who really has love.
So right. And it's all race war, you know. Whoever falls on the bad side will fall on the bad side, and whoever falls on the good side will. You know, it's great that there's many people, even black people, whatever, that step up, you know, on social media and say, hey, come on, man, you know, and call some BS, and then some just discovered the whole BLM funding that goes to AgBlue, and then goes to some Democratic politicians funding, like Pete Buttplug and all these guys. It's what a mess. But,
what a mess!
What a mess!
What the? What the?
Yeah. And man, it's so great to finally like actually talk to you guys. I'm freaking tired of.
You too, man, and thanks for the support, bro, and thanks for calling in. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
It's good to hear from you, man. And stay with us. And anytime that you're catching the show, feel free to call in.
Sure, and next time I'm in LA, I'm a drummer and would love to jam.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
for sure, man. I'm down.
Thanks, Maurice.
Take
All
care,
right, bro.
man.
Take care.
Ciao.
All right.
And as for the rest of you,
All right. So that's it for the night. Closing statement, Trevor. A goodbye, an outro.
I don't know, man. I don't really have a closing statement. I guess. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just that reminder of, you know, our identity, you know, and being careful not to build our identity from the world, and realize that we ain't nothing. We ain't crap. And then life is better that way. You know, I'm not my music. I'm not all of the things that the world tries to tell me I am. Yeah, because it's all ego trying to, you know, build me up to feel like somebody, right? Everybody wants to feel like somebody, be important, and have, you know, some sort of identity out of something. But at the end of the day, it all doesn't matter, and just be the observer. That's it.
I say the same thing. Speak up. It's especially important for people who are not what the media expects. You know, your Jesse's, Emmanuel, you're a Black Tory credit solutionist. You guys, in a strange way of it, you know, turning out the way it is that you guys can have a bigger impact in some ways because no one expects you to defend white people, to defend white culture and values, and defend this country, and to call it like it is. They don't expect that from you guys.
Because at the end of the day, you guys are also defending yourselves because you're Americans.
Right.
And the world, like I said, the world is, and the country and propaganda in Hollywood is selling the idea that that, you know, even like I said, calling black people African Americans is planting the seed in their idea that they're not, you know, they're not Americans first and foremost, you know.
Right. So fight back, speak up, grow into your identity. Forgive your mama, because you won't be able to fight back in the right way if you have any resentments and you get angry. And just, you know, notice that if you feel emotional about something, so relax, pull back, and watch yourself. With that, thank you guys for the support. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you to all our moderators and everybody else who came to hang out and call in. Be well, and remember, it's okay to be white.
Yeah.
All right, Trevor will take you out.
It's okay to be white. Alright guys, pros and cons, pros and cons. The world blames dad when it's really your mom.